Hello Internet, Zafe here. Anthem initially starts off incredible with what seems to be some very fun exosuit based gameplay, with lots of mobility options and some pretty damn good visuals hinting at Anthem's true potential. But sadly, after a few hours, the gameplay quickly becomes incredibly monotonous and very repetitive most of the way to and through endgame. Anthem also has a subpar main story and really lackluster side quests that do not represent Bioware at their best.
Negotiations have concluded.
Anthem is set on another world where exist relics of lost advanced technology that can help harness a new powerful energy source known as the Anthem. Your own custom character is part of an army of freelancers on a mission to enter the Heart of Rage and prevent the villainous Dominion from seizing control of the Anthem.
Very little ammo.
That one just went flying.
That's all.
The playable world of Anthem seems gorgeous. Setting out in your javelin suit, you're presented with very impressive waterfalls overlooking the sculpted landscape, but there's not very much diversity in the world's regions. You're constrained to this one location type with occasional cave-based exploration. Anthem's game world is also stitched together with loading screens. There's actually moments in the main story where you load into a cave only to need to load back out of the cave after a few seconds of dialogue. The loading times aren't particularly bad, but you see so many loading screens, they only help contribute to the stale and monotonous Anthem experience. Gotta give credit to the animations and different designs of the 4 classes javelins. The javelins do feel pretty slick and smooth when flying about, and you do start with pretty generous customization options that allow you to recolor many different sections of your armor. Anthem's soundtrack is actually pretty great. It contains a unique and amazing mix of different instruments that either leaves your spine chilled or empowers you for battle. There's a perfect ambience for exploration with hints of alien technology. Just wish our ears got to hear the well-designed music more often. Quite early into Anthem, you're presented with the option between 4 different class-based javelins. The Colossus is a tanky heavy weapons expert, the Storm makes use of elemental-based attacks, the Interceptor is very fast with a focus on melee attacks, while the Ranger is a well-rounded javelin. A pretty decent selection of different playstyles, at least when it comes to combat. Every javelin has their own custom abilities that are interchangeable by equipping different pieces of gear, and a lot of these abilities feel very satisfying to use. In particular for me, it was initially really fun chain casting explosive abilities as my Storm Javelin. In general, you'll find yourself matched with 3 other online players for all of the game's content. You can opt into solo play for the story and side quests, but honestly it feels like the game was designed more so with a full team in mind. You do occasionally come across story missions that are a real pain in the arse to solo. Experimenting with using certain ability types together can lead to combo bonuses, and you can combo abilities with other players, which can potentially make a little bit of coordination with your team very rewarding. But whatever you do, if a party member gets even just a few meters ahead of you, you'll be presented with this massive warning that if you don't catch up, you'll be teleported ahead. This quickly becomes a massive frustration you'll see far too often, as you stop for a second to dare to deviate from the path and pick up a collectible or material. Not to mention the large warning message covers up some important UI elements, which can be a nightmare when flying around and trying to micromanage your fuel levels. In your downtime between activities, you're in the city hub Fort Tarsus, which is aesthetically quite pleasing, but a real slog to slowly navigate to pick up new quests or contracts. You traverse it really slowly and it feels really restrictive and constrained, especially after flying around on your javelin. There's also a little social online hub where you can encounter a few random players, but honestly, I personally just stuck to Fort Tarsus, as all the story and side quests were exclusive to that location. Anthem's loading screens weren't too bad on a solid state drive. The problem is that there are so many different loading screens or time wasted waffling on, you'll actually find about 20% of your game time spent in some form of loading screen. For example, just ending a mission is an extra hassle with some badly designed systems. You'll load into an unnecessary score screen, even for menial tasks, followed by another loading screen to manage your loot within its own isolated system. You'll then load back into town, where you'll have the matchmaking screens and more loading screens just to get back into your next mission. The main story was alright, it wasn't exactly breaking any new grounds, and to be honest, the storytelling was a bit disappointing for Bioware, the writers behind Mass Effect 2, Dragon Age Origins and KOTOR. You'll actually reach a point in the story that just asks you to do loads of grindy side activities before you can continue, which just comes across as a really lazy way of padding out the game's length. The side quests are even worse, with so little meaningful dialogue and very little to no agency. Side quests just felt like contracts in disguise, which are very basic and repeatable missions that usually involve killing the same few enemies at different locations. Content quickly gets stale when you've been ordered to eliminate the same waves of scorpions for the 50th time. That said, the highlight of Anthem content would have to be its strongholds, which are 4-person dungeons with a pretty fun big boss at the end. These strongholds were surprisingly pretty engaging and at times exciting, especially on harder difficulties, which promote team play and even using crowd control based abilities to disable dangerous targets like turrets. Sadly, Anthem currently only has 3 strongholds in the game at the moment, which is such a shame. The incentive to take part in these kind of endgame activities is progressively stronger loot, but new equipment never really has any noticeable differences until you're tackling harder difficulties that have a whole new tier of equipment: Masterwork. If you can make it that far, Masterwork equipment offers unique bonuses that might have you changing your playstyle or building into certain abilities. Starting this March, Anthem will be receiving regular free content updates. It's quite vague what this content entails. Honestly, Anthem is very stretched thin as it is. There should have been a lot more content in the game from launch, and it feels like they're purposely holding back content and releasing it over time in the hopes of keeping players retained. It wouldn't be an EA game without microtransactions. Thankfully, microtransactions are cosmetics that can also be earned in-game. I can't entirely recommend Anthem in its current state. The main story is alright-ish, strongholds are pretty solid, but it's not really worth investing in an endgame with only 3 strongholds, even if Masterwork gear is available. Anthem feels like another one of those games that might actually be good in 2 years' time, once they've added more content. I'm so disappointed in Bioware, they're a shadow of their legendary former selves. That's it for Anthem. If you personally played Anthem, feel free to post a comment on how you found the game. I do read all the comments, and if you enjoyed my review, hit the like button or smash that subscribe button to see my other gaming related news and content. Bye for now.